Admiral James Walker stood at the wide front window of the U.S. Defiant, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared into the dark void of space. At 62 years old, with gray hair and stern blue eyes, he had seen many things in his long naval career, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Sir," Lieutenant Emily Parker called from her station, her voice tense. "We're getting a transmission. It's coming from multiple points across the solar system." Walker turned slowly, his weathered face reflecting the soft blue glow of the bridge's screens. "Put it through, Lieutenant." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that made several bridge crew members gasp. 3 alien beings sat at what appeared to be a grand council table. One had bluish skin and large, silver eyes. Another looked almost like a tall praying mantis. The third reminded Walker of a lion walking on 2 legs. The blue-skinned alien spoke first, its words automatically translated by the ship's computers. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. We have watched your development for many years. We have reached a decision about your species." Walker's jaw tightened. He didn't like their tone. "Your species is too aggressive to be allowed free access to space travel," the mantis-like being continued. "Your history is filled with war, violence, and conquest. We demand Earth's immediate surrender and colonization. This is not a request." The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Parker's fingers flew across her tactical screen, her young face pale but determined. "Admiral," she whispered urgently, "I'm picking up multiple ships entering our solar system. They're coming in fast from all directions." Walker didn't flinch. Instead, he straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "This is Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Fleet. I must inform you that we reject your demand." The lion-like alien leaned forward, baring its teeth. "You don't have a choice, human. Our ships are already moving to surround your planet. Your primitive weapons cannot hope to." "Let me stop you right there," Walker cut in, his voice calm but firm. "You seem to be operating under several misconceptions. First, the U.S. Defiant is not a primitive ship. Second, we're not defenseless. And third," he allowed himself a small smile, "you really should have checked what we've been building on the dark side of the moon." The aliens' expressions changed as new data appeared on their screens. Lieutenant Parker had just sent them detailed scans of Earth's true military capabilities. "Impossible," the blue alien whispered. "These readings, they show quantum technology far beyond what your species should be capable of." "Humanity has a saying," Walker replied. "Necessity is the mother of invention. When we found that scout ship of yours that crashed in the Arctic 10 years ago, we didn't just study it, we improved it." The mantis alien stood up, its voice sharp with anger. "You dare to steal our technology." "Steal?" Walker raised an eyebrow. "As I recall, salvage rights are recognized by galactic law. We found it, we studied it, and yes, we improved it. Quite significantly, actually." At her station, Lieutenant Parker's screen lit up with warnings. "Sir, their ships are powering up weapons. 23 capital ships detected, moving into attack formation." Walker nodded calmly. "Lieutenant, show them why the Defiant isn't just another warship." Parker's hands danced across her console. Around the massive human battleship, space itself seemed to ripple. The quantum drive, humanity's greatest achievement, hummed to life. The alien council members watched in horror as their sensors showed the impossible. The Defiant was somehow in multiple places at once, appearing to flicker in and out of reality around their ships. "What you're seeing," Walker explained, "is what happens when humans are backed into a corner. We don't just adapt. We revolutionize. Your quantum technology was impressive, but you only scratched the surface of what it could do." The lion alien snarled. "This is your last chance. Surrender now, or—" "No," Walker cut in firmly. "This is your last chance. Withdraw your ships immediately, or discover firsthand why challenging humanity was your worst mistake." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Lieutenant Parker looked up from her station. "Sir, they're not withdrawing. All enemy ships are moving into attack positions." Walker smiled grimly and sat in his command chair. "Then let's show the galaxy why you should never underestimate human ingenuity. Battle stations, everyone. Let's make history." As red alert klaxons sounded throughout the massive ship, the crew of the U.S. Defiant prepared to defend their home. The opening moves of a war that would change the galaxy forever were about to begin. 6 months earlier, Dr. Thomas Reed wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the complex equations covering his office whiteboard. Empty coffee cups littered his desk, telling the story of another long night at the Quantum Drive Research Facility. At 45, with tired eyes and messy brown hair, he looked more like an overworked teacher than the man responsible for humanity's greatest technological leap. A knock at his door broke his concentration. "Come in," he called out, not taking his eyes off the equations. Rachel Anderson walked in, carrying fresh coffee and a tablet. At 32, the lead engineer for the Defiant project had earned a reputation for solving problems others thought impossible. "Tom, you need to see this. The latest test results from the engine core are... well, look for yourself." Reed took the coffee gratefully and looked at the tablet. His eyes widened. "This can't be right. The power output is nearly triple what we expected." Rachel grinned. "It's right. Remember that strange crystal matrix we found in the alien ship's engine? I tried your idea of running our power through it backwards. Turns out they were using it all wrong." "Wrong?" Reed set down his coffee. "What do you mean?" Rachel pulled up a simulation on the big screen in Reed's office. "Look here. The aliens were using the crystal to dampen power output, make it more stable. But when we run the power through it in reverse and add our electromagnetic pulse technology, it amplifies it instead." Reed finished, standing up in excitement. "Rachel, do you know what this means? It means the Defiant won't just be able to match alien ships," she said, her eyes bright. "It'll be able to outrun and outmaneuver anything in known space." They hurried from the office and walked quickly through the underground facility. Their footsteps echoed off steel walls as they made their way to the massive construction bay. Through reinforced windows, they could see the U.S. Defiant taking shape. The ship was beautiful in a dangerous way. Nearly a mile long, its dark hull seemed to absorb light. Workers in mechanized suits crawled over its surface like ants, welding special plates that would help the ship slip between dimensions. Dr. Reed, Engineer Anderson, a young technician, ran up to them, holding a datapad. "We just finished installing the new weapon systems. You're going to want to see this." They followed him to the testing range. Through blast-proof glass, they watched as a small prototype of their new weapon system powered up. A target made of the same material as alien ship hulls stood at the far end. "Running test fire sequence," Rachel announced, her fingers moving across the control panel. "Standard alien hull material at 100 yards. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The weapon fired. Instead of a normal energy beam, it released a burst that seemed to fold space itself. When it hit the target, the alien metal didn't just break. It shattered at the molecular level." "My God," Reed whispered. "The quantum tunneling effect. It's not just for moving through space. The weapon actually breaks apart the bonds holding matter together." Rachel nodded. "And because it uses their own quantum technology against them, their shields won't know how to stop it. They'll be expecting a standard energy weapon or projectile." A voice came over the facility speakers. "Dr. Reed and Engineer Anderson, please report to command. Priority message from Admiral Walker." In the command center, Admiral Walker's face filled the main screen. Even through the video feed, his presence commanded respect. "How close are we?" the Admiral asked without preamble. Reed stepped forward. "Sir, we've just had 2 major breakthroughs. The quantum drive is exceeding all expectations, and the weapon systems." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Let's just say that anyone who thinks humanity is primitive is in for a very big surprise." Walker nodded. Good. Intelligence suggests we don't have much time. The Galactic Council is getting nervous about our progress. We need the Defiant ready as soon as possible. We'll have her ready, sir, Rachel promised. This ship isn't just an answer to their technology. It's the next step in human innovation. They think they're coming to stop us from advancing. She smiled. They're about to find out they're several steps behind. As they returned to work, Reed looked again at the massive ship through the window. The Defiant represented everything humanity was capable of, taking others' technologies and reimagining them in ways their creators never dreamed possible. We're not just building a ship, he said quietly. We're building humanity's future. Rachel nodded, her expression determined. And anyone who tries to stop that future is going to regret it. High Commander Maxwell stood before the massive window in the Galactic Council's war room, his tall, silver-skinned figure reflecting in the polished floor. He had chosen his Earth name specifically to mock humans, believing them too primitive to deserve their own names in galactic politics. Those little primates think they can challenge us, he sneered, turning to face the gathered council members. The war room sparkled with advanced technology, floating screens showing military movements across thousands of worlds. Laura Thompson, the only human in the room, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had betrayed Earth for a position of power in the council, but now doubt crept into her mind. Commander, I must warn you again. You're underestimating my former people. Maxwell waved his hand dismissively. Silence. Pet. Your species barely managed spaceflight a century ago. Our civilization has ruled the stars for 10,000 years. The main screen lit up with images of the U.S. Defiant. The massive ship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark sword waiting to strike. Look at this primitive vessel, one of the other council members, a reptilian being named Apex, laughed. They think because they found one of our scout ships, they can match our power. Laura stood up, her face red with frustration. You don't understand. Humans don't just copy technology. They improve it. They think differently than other species. Enough. Maxwell slammed his fist on the table. You forget your place, Thompson. We kept you because you were useful, not to hear your opinions. New alerts flashed across the screens. The Council's attack fleet had entered Earth's solar system, 23 of their most powerful warships moving into position. Watch, Maxwell said with a cruel smile. Watch how quickly your species breaks. But as they observed the confrontation with the Defiant, Maxwell's smile began to fade. The human ship was doing something impossible. Their sensors showed it appearing in multiple places at once. What trickery is this? Apex hissed, his scales changing color with agitation. Their quantum field readings are off the charts. Laura felt a mix of pride and fear. They've done it, she whispered. They've actually done it. They've taken your quantum drive technology and turned it into something new. Maxwell spun to face her. Explain. You use quantum technology for simple space travel, Laura said, standing taller now. Humans looked at it and asked, what else can we do with this? That's what you don't understand about Earth. We never stop asking questions, never stop pushing boundaries. The room erupted in chaos as new reports came in. The Defiant wasn't just moving in impossible ways. It was carrying weapons that shouldn't exist. Sir, a junior officer burst into the room. The human ship, it's not just one ship anymore. Somehow they found a way to exist in multiple quantum states at once. Our sensors can't lock onto it. Maxwell's silver skin paled to white. Impossible. No species has ever mastered multi-state quantum mechanics. The energy requirements alone would be impossible with your understanding of physics, Laura cut in. But humans have been studying quantum science for centuries. What you call impossible, they call a challenge. On the screens, the Defiant flickered in and out of existence around the Council fleet. Each time it appeared, its weapons did things that defied the Council's understanding of physics. Should we withdraw the fleet? Apex asked, his voice shaking. Maxwell's pride wouldn't let him accept defeat. Never. Launch the attack. Show these primitives the power of the Council. Laura shook her head sadly. You still don't understand. Humans don't think like you. We don't follow the rules of what should be possible. We make our own rules. As if to prove her point, the screen showed the Defiant performing another impossible maneuver. The Council fleet's sensors couldn't track it. Their weapons couldn't target it. The proud warships that had dominated space for millennia were helpless against this new kind of warfare. I tried to warn you, Laura said quietly. Humans are different. We're not just aggressive. We're innovative, creative. We take basic ideas and transform them into things you never imagined. Maxwell stared at the screens in horror as his perfect attack plan fell apart. The species he had dismissed as primitives was about to teach the galaxy a lesson about the danger of underestimating humanity. The war had begun, and the Galactic Council was about to learn why making humanity angry was the biggest mistake in their 10,000 years of rule. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood at her battle station aboard the U.S. Defiant, watching as the Council fleet spread out in a standard attack formation. 10 years of combat training had prepared her for many things, but this was different. This was humanity's first real space battle. Chief Engineer Brooks, she called out, is the stealth system ready? Michael Brooks, a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands, looked up from his console. Yes, Captain. The quantum shadow drive is running at full power. They won't know what hit them. Admiral Walker's voice came over the ship's speakers. All hands, prepare for quantum jump. Captain Rodriguez, you have permission to begin Operation Ghostwalker. Rodriguez smiled. This was what they had trained for. Attention all crew. Battle stations. Prepare for multiple quantum shifts. The Defiant's special engines hummed to life. The sound reminded Rodriguez of a cat purring, if that cat was the size of a mountain. Around them, space itself began to bend. First jump in 3, 2, 1. Brooks counted down. The ship shifted. One moment they were in front of the Council fleet. The next, they were behind it. But they weren't just in one place. The quantum drive let them exist in 5 different locations at once. Look at their sensors scrambling. Brooks laughed. They can't figure out which Defiant is real because they're all real. Rodriguez watched as confusion spread through the enemy fleet. Their ships turned in different directions, trying to track the Defiant's multiple positions. It was like watching a group of cats chasing 5 laser pointers at once. Target their supply ships, Rodriguez ordered. Show them why you don't threaten Earth. The Defiant's new weapons powered up. Each quantum copy of the ship fired at different targets. The Council's mighty shields, designed to stop normal weapons, were useless against attacks that came from multiple dimensions at once. Ma'am, a young officer called out. 3 enemy ships are trying to jump to hyperspace. Not today, Rodriguez said firmly. Mr. Brooks, show them our little surprise. Brooks pressed a series of buttons on his console. The space around the fleeing ships twisted. Their engines fired, but they went nowhere. Quantum anchor engaged, Brooks reported proudly. They're not going anywhere. Our drive isn't just copying our ship. It's locking them in normal space. Rodriguez watched as panic spread through the Council fleet. These aliens had never faced an enemy who could fight like this. Their mighty warships, terror of 1,000 worlds, were being picked apart by a single human vessel. Message from Admiral Walker. The communications officer announced. We're to proceed with Phase 2. Rodriguez nodded. You heard the Admiral. Mr. Brooks, prepare for long-range quantum jump. Let's show the Council what happens when they pick a fight with Earth. The Defiant gathered its quantum copies back into one ship. Then, with a flash of light that bent space itself, they jumped, not just to another part of the solar system, but to another star entirely. They reappeared near a major Council world. Before the alien defense fleet could react, the Defiant split into multiple copies again. Each copy targeted key military installations, using their revolutionary weapons to disable rather than destroy. "Send the message," Rodriguez ordered. The communication officer transmitted their prepared statement to the Council world. "This is the U.S. Defiant. We have just demonstrated our ability to strike anywhere in Council space. We can appear in multiple places, bypass your defenses, and shut down your military capabilities. This is your only warning. End your attack on Earth, or we will dismantle your empire one world at a time." Brooks checked his readings. "Captain, we have enough power for 3 more jumps before we need to recharge." "Perfect," Rodriguez said. "That's enough to visit 3 more Council worlds. Let's make sure everyone knows what happens when you threaten humanity." The Defiant continued its mission, jumping from world to world. At each stop, they demonstrated their superior technology, disabled military targets, and left before the Council could respond. They weren't just winning a battle, they were changing the way war was fought in space. Back in Earth's solar system, the remaining Council ships watched in horror as reports came in from across the galaxy. The humans hadn't just defended their home, they had taken the fight to the enemy's doorstep. "Send word to Admiral Walker," Rodriguez ordered as they prepared for another jump. "Tell him Phase 2 is complete. The Council isn't just losing this war, they're learning why picking a fight with humans was the worst decision they ever made." Security Officer Daniel Hayes moved quietly through the captured Council archives. After the Defiant's successful strikes, they had taken control of a small Council research station. At 38, with sharp eyes and steady hands, Hayes had spent 15 years in military intelligence. But what he found here shocked even him. "Computer, translate these files," he ordered, holding up his scanner to the alien text. The device hummed as it processed the ancient records. His communicator buzzed. "Hayes here. Daniel, it's Admiral Walker. Have you found anything useful?" Hayes stared at the translated text, his face growing darker. "Sir, you need to see this. The Council, they've been lying to everyone. About everything." Within an hour, Admiral Walker and Lieutenant Parker stood with Hayes in the archive room. The walls were lined with glowing data crystals, each containing thousands of years of Council records. "Look at this," Hayes pointed to a display. "The Council didn't become advanced naturally. They stole technology from an ancient civilization, just like we did with their scout ship. But here's the interesting part. They could never fully understand it. They just copied it." Parker leaned closer to the screen. "But we didn't just copy their technology. We figured out how it worked and made it better." "Exactly," Hayes nodded. "And that's not all. The Council has been deliberately keeping other species from advancing too quickly. Look at these orders." He pulled up another file. The screen showed thousands of missions where the Council had sabotaged other civilizations' technological progress. Every time a species got close to making a big breakthrough, Hayes explained, the Council would step in. They'd cause accidents, delete research, sometimes even start wars to keep worlds fighting among themselves. Admiral Walker's face hardened. They tried to keep everyone weak so they could stay in power. "But they never understood humans," Parker added, beginning to smile. "We're different." Hayes pulled up more files. "That's right. Look at this analysis they did of Earth. They couldn't understand why we advanced so quickly. While other species took thousands of years to develop new technology, we did it in centuries. Because we never stopped competing," Walker said quietly. "Every war, every conflict pushed us to innovate, to find new solutions." Hayes nodded. "The Council species developed slowly through careful cooperation. But humans, we ran forward at full speed. When someone built a better weapon, we built a better defense. When someone made a faster plane, we made one that could fly higher. And when we found their scout ship," Parker added, "we didn't just learn from it. We asked questions they never thought to ask." More translations appeared on the screen. Hayes read them quickly. "The Council's scientists are terrified of us, not because we're violent, but because we think differently. They say our minds make impossible connections." Walker walked to the window, looking out at the stars. They're right. When they look at quantum physics, they see rules to follow. When we look at it, we see rules to break. Sir, Hayes said, pulling up one last file. There's more. The Council has been hiding signs of other advanced civilizations. Ancient ones, maybe even more powerful than them. They were afraid someone would find this knowledge and challenge them. Parker's eyes widened. Like we're doing now. Exactly, Hayes smiled. The Council's biggest fear wasn't that someone would fight them. It was that someone would outthink them. And that's exactly what humans do best. Walker turned back to them. Send all of this to Earth immediately. Every government, every scientific institution needs to see this. The Council didn't just try to stop our progress. They tried to stop all progress in the galaxy. Already done, sir, Hayes said. But there's one more thing. These records show that the Council's power isn't based on their superiority. It's based on fear and control. If other species learn the truth, then the Council's empire will collapse. Walker finished. Not from our weapons, but from the truth. Lieutenant Parker, send word to the Defiant. Tell them to prepare for Phase 3. Parker nodded. What should I tell them the mission is, sir? Walker looked at the star map showing all the Council's subject worlds. Tell them it's time to share humanity's greatest weapon with the galaxy. Our technology, sir, Hayes asked. No, Walker smiled. The truth. The truth that any species can advance and innovate if they're free to do so. The Council kept the galaxy in chains by making everyone believe they had to develop slowly, carefully, according to their rules. And we're going to break those rules, Parker said firmly. We already have, Hayes added, holding up the translated files. Now it's time to show everyone else how to break them too. Communications Officer Robert Wilson sat at his station aboard the Defiant, his fingers dancing across the control panel. At 40, with steady hands and determined eyes, he was about to start the biggest information campaign in human history. Dr. Martinez, he called out to the ship's AI expert, is the transmission system ready? Jennifer Martinez looked up from her complex array of screens. Ready, Rob. The Council's own communication network is about to work against them. Admiral Walker's voice came through their earpieces. Begin Operation Truth. Let's show the galaxy what the Council has been hiding. Wilson took a deep breath and pressed the broadcast button. Across thousands of worlds, the Council's propaganda channels suddenly went dark. When they came back online, they showed something very different. This is the U.S. Defiant. Wilson's voice echoed across the galaxy. To all species under Council rule, we have discovered the truth. And now you will see it too. Dr. Martinez's special AI programs broke through the Council's security systems like they were made of paper. On every planet, in every home, the evidence began to play. Look at how easily their systems fell, Martinez said, smiling. They never imagined someone would dare hack their superior technology. The broadcast showed everything. The stolen ancient technology. The deliberate suppression of other species. The lies that kept the Council in power for thousands of years. Sir, Wilson called out, we're getting responses. Hundreds of them. Thousands. On his screen, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Young species, ones the Council had kept down, were watching, learning, understanding. The Vega system was first to act. Their entire defense fleet turned against the Council ships in orbit. Then the Centauri worlds joined in. One by one, system after system began to rise up. They're fighting back, Martinez whispered, watching the reports flood in. They're actually fighting back. Wilson adjusted the broadcast frequency as the Council tried to shut them down. But they couldn't. The quantum technology of the Defiant let them transmit from multiple points at once, just like they could fight from multiple positions. Message from the Arcturus system, Wilson reported. Their scientists say they've been secretly working on quantum physics too. They want to share their research with us. More messages came in. Different species offering their own hidden discoveries. things they had kept secret from the Council for centuries. Dr. Martinez, Admiral Walker's voice came through again. Begin Phase 2 of the broadcast. Martinez nodded and activated her special program. On screens across the galaxy, step-by-step instructions appeared. How to improve quantum drives. How to break free from Council control. How to think like humans, not bound by artificial limits. "Sir," Wilson said, his voice excited, "the Proxima colonies are reporting their first successful quantum drive test. They built it using our instructions." In the Council's main chamber, panic spread. Their perfect system of control was falling apart. High Commander Maxwell watched in horror as his empire crumbled. "Message coming in from the Council," Wilson announced. They're offering to surrender." Admiral Walker's reply was firm. "Tell them it's too late for that. The galaxy is waking up." Reports kept coming in. More systems breaking free. More species discovering their true potential. The Council's grip on power was breaking, not from weapons, but from something far more powerful: knowledge. "Look at this," Martine said, pointing to her screen. "Species that the Council said were primitive are building advanced technology. All they needed was to know it was possible." Wilson watched as the galactic map changed before his eyes. The Council's territory was shrinking. Free worlds were joining together, sharing knowledge, growing stronger. "Send the final message," Walker ordered. Wilson cleared his throat and spoke to the galaxy one more time. "The Council tried to keep us divided. Tried to make us believe we needed them. But humanity learned long ago that the only limits that matter are the ones we accept. Today, those limits end. Today, every species gets to choose its own path." As his words echoed across space, the revolution spread. The Council's leaders fled their capital world. Their mighty warships surrendered one by one. "It's really happening," Martine said softly. "We didn't just beat them. We changed everything." Wilson nodded, watching as more messages of freedom and discovery poured in. "That's what humans do best. We don't just break the rules. We change the game entirely." The breaking point had come, and as the Council's power crumbled, a new age of discovery and innovation was beginning. The galaxy would never be the same. Lieutenant Commander David Thompson stood in the great hall of what was once the Council's main chamber. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, making the polished floor shine. 1 month had passed since the Council's fall, and everything had changed. "The representatives from the free worlds are arriving," his assistant reported. 37 species in total, sir." David nodded, straightening his diplomatic uniform. At 35, he had never expected to become Earth's first ambassador to the new Galactic Alliance. But then again, no one had expected any of this to happen. Admiral Walker stood beside him, watching as alien delegates filed into the chamber. There were tall ones and short ones, some with scales, others with fur, but all shared the same look of hope in their eyes. "Quite different from the last time we were here," Walker said quietly. "Remember, they demanded our surrender in this very room." David smiled. "And now we're helping them build something new." The U.S. Defiant hung in orbit above them, visible through the chamber's crystal dome. But it wasn't alone anymore. Ships from dozens of worlds floated nearby, each one built with a mixture of their own technology and human innovations. "The session is ready to begin," David announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Welcome to the first full meeting of the Galactic Alliance." He looked around at the gathered representatives. The lizard-like Arcturians sat next to the floating gas beings of the mist worlds. The crystalline Proxima people sparkled beside the fur-covered delegates from the Vega systems. 1 month ago, David began, we discovered that the Council had been holding all of us back. They wanted us to believe we could only advance slowly, carefully, according to their rules. Murmurs of agreement filled the room. But humanity proved something different, he continued. We proved that innovation comes from freedom, from asking questions, from looking at old problems in new ways. Admiral Walker stepped forward. In just 1 month, Your worlds have made advances that the Council said would take centuries. You've built quantum drives, developed new technologies, and reached out to the stars in your own ways. A tall, blue-skinned delegate stood up. The human way of thinking. It has changed everything. On my world, our scientists now ask why not, instead of just accepting what we're told is impossible. That's the key, David smiled. Humanity's greatest gift wasn't our technology. It was our way of thinking, our refusal to accept limits. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above them. It showed thousands of stars, with lines connecting them, the new trade and communication routes being built between free worlds. The Council kept us apart because they feared what we could do together, David said. Today, we prove them right. Together, we're advancing faster than they ever dreamed possible. Admiral Walker nodded. But with that power comes responsibility. That's why we're here, not to create a new council, but to build something different, something based on cooperation and free exchange of ideas. David activated another display, showing the proposed alliance charter. Every world remains free to develop in its own way. We share knowledge, not orders. We offer help, not control. The chamber erupted in applause. Species that had once feared each other now sat together, planning joint projects and sharing discoveries. And what of the old council members? Someone asked. They've been offered a choice, David replied. They can join us as equals, sharing what they know and learning from others. Many have already accepted. Walker smiled. Turns out, even they were tired of living under their own rules. As the meeting continued, David looked out at the stars through the dome. The Defiant still floated above, but it was no longer a weapon of war. Now it was a symbol of something else, of humanity's real gift to the galaxy. The final vote is ready, his assistant whispered. David stood again. All those in favor of ratifying the Alliance Charter. Every hand, tentacle, and appendage in the room raised. The vote was unanimous. Then let it be recorded, David announced. Today, the Galactic Alliance is born. Not an empire of control, but a partnership of free worlds. Together, we'll reach heights the Council never imagined possible. As cheers filled the chamber, Admiral Walker leaned close to David. Not bad for a species they called primitive, eh? David grinned. They thought we were too aggressive, too quick to change things. They never understood that's exactly what the galaxy needed. Above them, the Defiant caught the light of the rising sun, its dark hull gleaming. It had started as humanity's answer to the Council's threats. Now it was a reminder that the only real limits were the ones you chose to accept. The galaxy was awake, and its new dawn was just beginning.